Hey guys, GC here with Vendetta Waterfowl, and this is episode 4 of Speck Call Basics. So last week we talked about the uck and the double cluck. Today we're going to be talking about the murmur and the scratch cluck. But first let's recap last week's episode real fast. So we learned that the uck and the double cluck are two and the same. You're using the same shape just in a different pattern to get that uck or that double cluck. The shape of the uck is that I'm just voicing it so you can hear it, but you want that clean air with that push of your throat. Little drag in the middle and then a stop. And that's going to give you the uck. With the double cluck, just being a bunch of ucks put back to back. So instead of a, it's a. That being your double cluck. And then we also talked about that cluck string heel, mixing everything that we know already into a heel. We're going to talk about that again today at the end of the episode once we learn the scratch cluck and mix that in a little bit. But first, let's talk about the murmur, the shaping of the murmur. So what is a murmur? Well, a murmur is buzzing the reed in that call. You're just hitting a real low buzz. You don't want it to break over and hit that high pitch. You will get it to break, and we will control that. But first, let's focus in on the shape of that murmur. What is it? Well, it's not a growl. You don't want to growl into the call. You just want to buzz the reed by sending that clean air up, squeezing with your diaphragm, pushing with your throat, and you're going to vibrate your vocal cords. Just like if your phone is sitting on a table and it starts to go off. So if I keep it low, I'm just barely putting any air into this call. It's just barely putting any air. And now I can increase it. And if I just ride the scale, start low and just slowly increase it, that's the sound you get. You want to control it. You don't want to be out of control on it. You want to control that sound as it's going in. So it's just a vibration as you're pushing the air through. You don't want to growl. You don't want That's not going to be able to control that air. You want to vibrate it. And with that, as I'm clucking or yodeling, I can throw these murmurs in and out and in and out if I have control of it. So that's the murmur. Then you have the scratch cluck, which is just basically a thing you can do with the murmur, if that makes sense. So we're just going to take that murmur and mix it in with some clucks. Then how am I going to do that is by voicing a shape onto the end of that vibration. So it's going to sound like this. And I can clean it up or dirty it up as much as I want to with that, what I call hot air. So I'm pushing the air, I'm vibrating my vocal cords, and I'm just going vutta, 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 vutta. And as you're doing this, you want to keep that hand cupped, just like always. Send that back pressure up with your hand cupped over the end and control it. Vutta, 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 vutta. Just vibrating my vocal cords as the air is passing through. So with the scratch cluck, you can dirty it up as much as you want or keep it clean as you want. You can have that high end. And see how I just turned off that murmur just like that? I'm keeping the same flow going. I'm just not vibrating the vocal cords and putting out hot air anymore. So it sounds like this. So if I just kick it in a little bit, It's just like a little accent to it, is all it is. So now let's take that and let's advance a little more. Let's take everything and put it all together. I'm going to throw that cluck string heel back on the screen, but as you can see now, I've added a little bit to it. So we have the single clucks starting at the bottom. We're going to hit a 3 note, and then we're going to go into our double clucks. Once we get to our double clucks, we're going to peak and hold at the top, drop back down into the double clucks as we descend, and then we're going to throw in some murmurs / scratch clucks, and that's what we call the scratch game we're getting into as we transition into those singles. So now you're going to learn a second transition. You know how to transition from doubles to singles. Now we're going to transition from doubles to murmurs to singles. Then we're going to throw a little uck and a single cluck. Now if you're not ready for this, don't do it. Go back to last week's episode and keep practicing that cluck string while you're practicing shaping that murmur. But we're going to go ahead and get it to you. That way you have this to practice, of course. So I'm going to put it back up as you watch it as I do it. And this is what it's going to sound like. And now you're working that heel and you're creating a song. We're going to keep adding to these cluck string heels as we go along, and they're going to get harder, but you're going to get better at the same time. So that's going to conclude today's episode. Just kind of touching on the murmur thing, getting that sound, start working on that shape, continue to work on your hands. Next week, we're going to talk about refining all these sounds that we're learning. We're going to talk about the 3 note, the 2 note, the single cluck, double cluck, uck, murmur, scratch cluck, and just how to refine that and get that crisp, clean sound off of the shapes that we've already learned. We're also going to touch a little bit on drag notes, which are awesome. I love doing drag notes. They add a lot of variety to the sounds you're already doing. So that'll be next week. Be sure to like and subscribe. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Keep up with all things Vendetta Waterfowl. And as always, I'm GC with Vendetta Waterfowl. Get mean, get even.